Just to let you know, the session will be recorded and we will share the recording out once the session is over, and this will be available on YouTube. So for those who aren't able to join us today, you will still be able to listen to the session on YouTube. Next slide, please. So to give you an introduction to the border target operating model, we'll start with just explaining what products of animal origin are. And specifically for this session, we are referring to products of meat and poultry only. So as all of you will probably know, products of animal origin are for human consumption only. And this includes the meat products that are listed within the slide, eggs and eggs products, milk and milk products, honey, gelatin and gelatin products as well. So if we move on to the next slide. As you know, the Border Target Operator Model was published on the 29th of August, and it sets out our new approach to safety and security controls, which applies to all imports, and sanitary and phytosanitary controls for animal products at the border. This TOM, the BTOM, was developed following extensive engagement with the border industry and businesses across the UK. It also incorporates feedback from the draft Border Target Operating Model, which was published in April 23. If you'd like to view the Border Target Operating Model, you are welcome to use your camera to scan the QR code and it will take you directly to the Border TOM. So this Border TOM incorporates three major schemes. So there's a new global risk-based approach where animal products will be categorized as high, medium or low risk. And these controls are appropriately weighted against the risks posed by the commodity and the country of origin. We also have streamlined export health certificates for animal products, and these are available on gov.uk. I will go through this a bit more during the session. We also have the Trusted Trader Scheme, the Accredited Trusted Trader Scheme. The pilot for this has also launched, and I will be going through this in a bit more depth during the session. The components of the SPS regime, and this is pre-notification, health certification, identity and physical checks. The pre-notification supports action at points of entry, which allows officials to target their activities at shipment posing the biggest biosecurity risk. The detail allows traceability, enabling animal products for the purpose of this session to identify and respond to an outbreak of emerging threats. Export health certification. This requires authorized officials in exporting countries to certify that goods have been produced to the safe standards required by the importing country, as well as a process to monitor these through documentary checks. An OV, also known as an official veterinarian, will certify that the animal product is free from any kind of disease at the time of departure by providing a health attestation. We also have identity and physical checks. These are at border control posts where health officials will be able to check that the goods match the health certification to identify any kind of trends of concern in non-compliance. Moving on to the next slide. So as you may have noticed, there has been some changes in the schedule, and these are for a number of reasons. For one, we've listened to businesses on the need to give them sufficient time to prepare, including understanding the TOM risk categories for your products. We've also listened to businesses on the need to ensure that their supply chains have time to adapt to control changes and are not disrupted. This new phase approach will now begin from the 31st of January, then the 30th of April and the 31st of October 2024. So let's start with the 31st of January changes. We have medium risk animal products, which will require export health certificates, and this will be for EU and EFTA exports to Great Britain. So again, all medium risk animal products will require an export health certificate. The introduction of pre-notification requirements for non-qualifying goods that enter Great Britain from Ireland. Qualifying Northern Ireland goods will continue to benefit from unfettered access to Great Britain market, and this is whether moving directly from Northern Ireland to Great Britain or indirectly via Ireland. We also have the Trusted Trader Scheme for medium risk animal products with a focus on certification logistics. This will begin in January. At West Coast ports, we will introduce health certification for medium risk animal products and high risk food and feed of non-animal origin. The changes from the 30th of April 2024 will include the introduction of documentary checks and risk-based identity and physical checks on medium risk animal products from the EU and EFTA countries at BCPs. We will begin to simplify imports from non-EU countries, including the removal of health certification and routine checks on low-risk animal products from non-EU countries. Physical and identity check levels on medium-risk animal products from non-EU countries will be reduced. And for the October milestone, from the 31st of October, the requirement for safety and security declarations for imports into Great Britain from the EU or from other territories where the waiver applies will come into force. The date for the commencement of physical checks for EU and non-qualifying goods moving from the island of Ireland will be confirmed in autumn 2023, but will be no earlier than the 31st of October 2024. And qualifying Northern Ireland goods will continue to benefit from unfettered access to the Great Britain market, whether moving directly from Northern Ireland to Great Britain or indirectly via Ireland. Now to talk about the import controls for meat and poultry products. So as I've mentioned, there will be risk categories for all meat and poultry products. We won't run through these today, but you are welcome to view your risk categories using the QR code, which will take you to gov.uk. And as I've said before, all medium risk animal products will require export health certification. The import risk category is assigned to a product based on the inherent risk that a product poses to the animal health, food safety, biosecurity, and public health. And this is alongside the risks specific to the country of origin. For example, the prevalence of pest diseases and the standard of official health controls. For low import risks, pre-notification using Great Britain's imports of product, animal food, and feed system will be required. They must enter GB via a port that has a border control post designated for that type of commodity. There will be routine surveillance undertaken and intelligence gathered. For all medium risk products, this will include all of the above that I've mentioned and the addition of health certificate, documentary checks, and they may be subject to a percentage of risk-based identity and physical checks at the border. And this is based on specific risks. Moving on to pre-notification and certification for meat and poultry products. So making the pre-notification, you will need to notify authorities of all animal products subject to biosecurity controls before they enter GB. And this is regardless of import risk category. This can be done via gov.uk, and you are able to view this page by scanning the QR code. The BTOM includes a commitment to introduce the CHED, which is the Common Health Entry Document for imports notification for goods from EU, EFTA and EEA country. CHEDs are already in place for non-EU country. The CHED is replacing the import notification, IMP, and will support the introduction of digital health certificates. For traders importing from both EU and non-EU country, this will provide the benefit of using just one type of pre-notification for both. CHEDs also provide more detailed data to support biosecurity risk surveillance. It will be implemented on IFAS from the end of January 2024, and this will be for all imports of animal products from EU and EFTA countries. You'll soon see some changes to SCREEVE and IFAS and to do the final pre-notification document. Moving on to verifiable PDFs of certificates. From the end of January 2024, with the change to the CHED notification, we will accept verifiable PDF versions of digitally signed export health certificates attached to the IFAS pre-notifications for medium-risk animal products, and this will be without the need to send the original paper certificate with the consignment. Some businesses already send copies of documentation by email to the relevant Port Health Authority or attach it to the pre-notification and IFAS, but the paper copy is still required. Guidance for EU suppliers on the correct way to download a verifiable PDF is on the Traces website, and that is at traceseurope.eu. Moving on to model health certificates. Model health certificates are available now on gov.uk for all commodities, and they must be used for medium imports risks or medium risk animal products to facilitate export of medium risk products to Great Britain, the Channel Islands, and Isle of Man. These have been accepted from non-EU and EFTA countries now, and EU and EFTA countries from the 31st of January 2024. The health certificates have been reformatted to reduce opportunities for administrative errors while maintaining animal and public health requirements. The attestations in Part 2 have been moved shorter and with further information that can be found in Part 3, which this does not need to accompany the consignment. Further information on the model health certificates is also available on gov.uk. Moving on to the Accredited Trusted Trader Scheme. The expressions of interest for ATTS is now live on gov.uk. All interested businesses must apply by October the 6th. Just to explain what has changed since the draft, Tom, we have combined the two schemes, ATTS and what was known as the Technology Assurance Scheme, into a single modular framework under the Accredited Trusted Trader Scheme heading. This will provide all businesses with flexibility and choice in how they engage with the trusted trader approach. It has now been designed with a modular framework which includes checks away from the border, certification, logistics pilot, and a journey assurance. Each module will be piloted as a first step to determine if the module will be included as part of the scheme indefinitely. The pilot of the certification logistics model will begin from January 2024. The pilot for checks away from the border will begin from April 2024. The timelines for the journey assurance module is still being considered, and this will be finalised based on the output of the co-design period. Where possible, we will look to initiate pilots for additional benefits from April 2024. This will be in line with the checks away from the border pilot. So now moving on to groupage. Groupage involves transporting multiple products on a single lorry or container. The groupage models include gathering multiple consignments at a single consolidation hub before exporting or collecting them from multiple pickup points before exporting. The final TOM provides more detail on how the new approach will support groupage. Just to provide a high-level summary, there will be risk-based controls. Low-risk products are not subject to checks at the border. However, medium-risk animal products will have a reduced level of checks. This is compared to current non-EU checks. There will be health certificates for imports into GB. These now include inclusive and/or statements so that the product meets products that meet different conditions can be certified together on a new single export health certificate, and this is provided that they meet all other requirements of the certificate. The official seal requirements has been revised so that official seals will only be required for animal products where they are mandated within the export health certificate. If the vehicle registration number is unavailable at the point of certification for animal products, groupage consignment, the exporting country certifying officer can write the term groupage in the export health certificate. This is, of course, subject to certain conditions. However, the GB importer must provide the vehicle registration number on the check to avoid document check failure and delay. And as I mentioned on the previous slide, there will be the launch of the certification logistics pilot in January 2024. Transiting meat through GB. Medium risk animal products using Great Britain as a land bridge. For EU and EFTA goods, there will be the following requirements: pre-notification on IFAS from the 31st of January, health certification, and from the 30th of April, seal checks will begin. Check rates will align with those applied to imports into GB. Goods will need to enter and exit via port with a BCP designated to check them. The date for the start of seal checks for non-UNIG moving from the island of Ireland will be confirmed in autumn 2023, but will be no earlier than 31st of October 2024. For rest of world goods, the process will remain as now, but this is pending further risk assessment. Moving on to low-risk goods. So low-risk animal products using Great Britain as a land bridge. For EU and EFTA goods, they will require pre-notification on IFAS. They will need to enter and exit via point of entry with a designated BCP. They will require commercial documents, but no health certificates or routine checks will be required. They also may be subject to non-routine or intelligence-led checks. And for rest of world goods, the process will remain as now, and this will be pending further risk assessment. Moving on to border control posts. A border control post is an inspection post designated and improved in line with GB legislation for carrying out checks on animal and animal products arriving from third countries at the GB border. These checks are, of course, carried out to protect our animal and public health and animal welfare. From the point that checks commence at the border, you will need to route your goods via an appropriately designated BCP. More information can be found on gov.uk. The BCP map, which is on this slide, will be subject to further updates as new BCPs are approved. So we will continually be updating the BCP map. Charges and fees for SPS controls checks. The common user charge. Once border checks are introduced, consignments will be subject to two types of charges, and these are Port Health Authority and Animal Plant Health Agency charges, and those levied by the Border Control Post. As you know, DEFRA recently consulted on the proposed common user charge, which is a flat rate levied on every SPS consignment, which is eligible for BCP checks and enters through the Port of Dover or Eurotunnel, the shuttle, whether selected for check or not. This will be the BCP charge for those using short straits. The common user charge is intended to recover the cost of operating government-run BCP facilities, which are necessary to undertake physical inspection. The consultation ran for 4 weeks and it concluded on the 9th of July. It invited views on the principles, methodology, and indicative rates for the common user charge to determine fair and reasonable charges. DEFRA is now reviewing all responses to the consultation and will use the feedback to inform the final policy. Charging rate regimes at other points of entry may differ from the common user charge, so please do note that. And this is a matter for individual BCP operators. More detail on PHA and APHA charging will also be published shortly, but they will follow existing principles. Imports from the island of Ireland. From the 31st of January, we will introduce pre-notification for low and medium risk import risk goods and health certificates for medium import risk EU and non-qualifying Northern Ireland goods from the island of Ireland. No earlier than the 31st of October 2024, we will introduce risk-based documentary identity and physical checks for EU and non-qualifying Northern Ireland goods from the island of Ireland on the West Coast. More information is available in the BTOM document. And as I've mentioned previously, qualifying Northern Ireland goods will continue to have unfettered access to the GB market, whether these goods are moving directly from Northern Ireland to Great Britain or moving to Great Britain from Northern Ireland via Ireland. So that is the end of the presentation.